Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I am going to bring you my Week 2 2019 reads. This week was a great reading week. I finished 3 books, all of which I liked a lot. The first book I finished was a collected anthology of 1 to 2 page comics called Love is Love, collected by Marc Andreyko. This collection was done after the 2016 Orlando Pulse nightclub shootings, and it is a very, very moving collection. Each of the 1 to 2 pages is done by a different artist. Lots of different people who are queer, people who are allies, people who are affected by the shootings, or just comic book artists who wanted to contribute because they were moved. And there's a lot of variety in terms of what each artist contributed. Some artists contributed memorials, so a 1-page image of one of the victims, or some artists contributed their own stories growing up, of coming out as queer, or finding a home in a nightclub, or some artists contributed sort of ways of coping with the tragedy, how they talked to people, to their kids, to their friends, to their neighbors about the shootings. And there was also a lot of maybe artists who traditionally worked with superheroes, and so they brought their superheroes in to talk about the shootings as well. So it was a really wide range of artists and topics, but it was just so moving. I really truly cried throughout. And I think that the ones that stuck with me the most were about how to both process the grief at having lost so many lives, and also celebrate the joy of queer love, of people who are still able to live on and value their relationships. So that kind of dual grieving and celebrating the future for queer love. And that was very, very moving for me. I did struggle a little bit, sort of in the same way that Bex at Night Hunter Books mentioned, with the ones that were about the superheroes. I don't have enough of a background in a lot of these superhero comics in order to know what the meaning was that the authors were trying to convey in their little short stories. It just relied on too much prior knowledge. But overall, I thought it was a very good collection, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was The Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden. And this book is the 3rd book in the Winter Night trilogy. I started reading this trilogy, which started with The Bear and the Nightingale, last year, and I absolutely loved it. So I devoured books 1 and 2, and I pre-ordered the 3rd book, which didn't come out until just this week. I thought, oh, I'm in the middle of some other books, maybe I should wait to read it, but I couldn't resist. I just devoured it within a day, and it was so good. It was such a perfect wrapping up and ending and conclusion to this trilogy. The trilogy is about a girl, Vasya, in medieval Russia, who can see the native spirits, the native Russian spirits, so the spirits who protect the house or the woods. And this is in a time when the Catholic Church, maybe not Catholic, maybe it's Orthodox Church, but the Christian Church is very prevalent in Russia, and people are forgetting the old ways. And as they forget the old ways, the spirits lose their power. So she sees these spirits and basically is seen as a witch. And in this 3rd book, she has to deal with the people around her seeing her as something unnatural and evil. And she has to deal with all of this hatred and sort of trauma of people treating her really, really awfully. But at the same time, she knows that for the future of Russia, she has to bring the Russian people back to valuing and understanding the spirits, because not only are they dying without anybody to believe in them and honor them, but the Russian people are made vulnerable without those spirits there to protect them and protect their houses. There's a lot of evil things abroad. So she works really hard throughout this book to both grow as a person into an adult who can understand the complexities of the real world, not just seeing things in black and white or good and evil, but really understanding that everybody has good sides and bad sides, and even people who do really, really awful things, that doesn't mean that there aren't good parts of them and that you can't work together with them. And so a lot of this book was her growing into somebody who can understand how to bring people together and how to forge her own path that isn't choosing one side versus another side, but unifying those parts of her life and parts of Russia in order to ensure that everybody can survive and be strong together. There's also a huge focus on love in this book, not just romantic love, although that part I really loved, but also just a strong focus on familial love and love of country. So within families, there's a lot of very interesting dynamics, kind of parent-child dynamics, a lot of sibling dynamics that are really, really interesting. A lot of people who kind of care about their siblings, but sometimes fail to do the right thing, or who have to make really difficult choices of, do I protect the sibling or do I do something that is going to protect Russia as a whole or protect other people? So there's a lot of torn loyalties and a lot of exploration of what does it mean to love somebody, and what are the limits of that, and how do you overcome hurt when it exists inside of those relationships. So I just adored this book. The magic was amazing. The Russian folklore aspect of it was awesome, and just the story was so gripping and such a perfect ending to this trilogy. I absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The third book that I finished this week was Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells, which is the third book in the Murderbot Diary series. And just like all the others, I loved it. I think maybe this one is not as strong as the others in certain senses, but reading through it the second time, reading it aloud to my husband, I just loved it so much. This time, Murderbot is really exploring a lot more emotional depth. It has to interact with a group of humans which have a pet bot, as Murderbot calls it, which is a human form robot. So think something like, I don't know, C-3PO, where it is a human form, but it's fully a robot. There's no organic parts, and it's not intelligent in the way that Murderbot is. And this bot is really sweet and is seen as a family member by this group of humans. And Murderbot has to kind of confront some of its expectations of the interactions between humans and bots, and the way that it has seen humans treat bots in the past versus the way that this family treats the bot. And I think for Murderbot, this brings up a lot of emotions, a lot of resentment, a lot of kind of jealousy and frustration, and it has to cope with some of its own past of being treated as an object throughout its life rather than as a thinking, feeling being. So that's a really interesting thread going throughout this book. Other than that, Murderbot just makes a lot of progress. Murderbot is growing, is becoming more of an adult, is developing a lot of technical skills, a lot of skills in terms of its fighting prowess. Obviously, this is a sci-fi series which focuses on a lot of action, and so Murderbot is getting stronger. My husband said it's a little bit like something in Dragon Ball Z, where you just keep upping your level of fighting the next boss type of thing. So it's very fun, very fast-paced, and I thought very moving as well. I really like to see Murderbot grow through the series, and this was an excellent installment. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So that was everything that I read this week. It was, again, a great reading week. I feel like 2019 is getting off to an awesome start. I hope that you guys are also having a wonderful start to your 2019. If you guys have read any of these books, let me know in the comments what you think, or if you want to read them, or if you've read anything else that's similar that you think I would enjoy.